Fitting beams 11 and 12 is going to really challenge me. So I've spent a lot of time thinking of the process and the sequence, and I'm just going to take you right into it. We have a beam arm which is recessed or tabled into beam 11, and it's a process to do this. The first thing we establish is where the main hatch cowling fits into the beam. So we have to establish exactly where this is first. Then we cut the grooves into the beam arms and then match the cuts back onto beam 7 and cut the recesses or tabling out of the beam and fit them together. And this is going to be quite challenging. It's all done on the table, so you need to think out the process, and I'll just quickly go through it with you. The first thing we do is cut out all the various pieces that we need, and then we take this piece starting with the beam arm, and we cut the recesses on the beam arm where the recess is 1.5 inches deep, and we do this on the table saw. I would suggest you experiment with it to make sure you get the correct depth right, and perhaps do it on a spare piece of wood before you actually go and make the final piece. Otherwise you'll be making this piece over and over again. Then you take the beam and you have to make a reciprocating cut to match what is on the beam arm. How I normally do this is I cut the two outside edges and then move the piece in and take the center of it out. And I do this for both recessed pieces. I tended to cut the pieces short and then made the final adjustments. It took me 3 or 4 times before I got it correct. Now we can assemble the beam arms onto the beam. And the hatch cowlings, which are wider than normal, it's 7.5 inches I believe. And once that all fits, we can now fit it on the model. And what we'll do is stick the beam in first, then the hatch cowlings, then the beam arms. This is a shot taken from book 3, which gives you an understanding of where the various pieces go. I had forgotten to put in the sump for the pump, so we quickly did that with the turbo carver, and that was pretty easy to do. And then we stick beam 11 in, which is the first beam that holds the shot locker in place. This was followed up by the 2 cowlings, which on both sides of the main hatch. Then we fitted the shot locker in once that had set. And it took a little bit of juggling to get it in, but it got in because it had been pre-fitted before, and everything worked pretty well. And then that was followed by beam 12, which is necessary because it holds the other side of the shot locker and gives some stability to the whole piece. And just pointing out that you realize that almost constantly using PVA glue rather than epoxy, which I used in the early part of the build. Much more comfortable with it, have a good feel for it, and very happy to use it. So now we're putting in the arms, just making sure they all fit and double checking them, adjusting them to fit. And we're going to stick these in with PVA glue. And then I just suddenly realized I have to change the sequence a bit because I'd forgotten about these hanging knees, which are on beam 10, on the back side of beam 10. And you just wouldn't be able to put them in if the arms were in place. So we put those in, and then once that was done, we could stick the arms now. We stuck the recessed side of the arm, the part that fits into the beam, and we left the end of the arm as it fits against the side of the boat unstuck, and then once it was stuck hard, we would come back at a later point in time and stick it down, because remember, the beam is curved. It's high at the center and curves down to the sides. I had to think long and hard if I was going to put the iron knee under the arm, and because no one's going to ever see it. But again, following the purpose of this video, which is to teach myself things and to do things I've never done before, I thought it important that I actually make this piece up. So I took a piece of brass, bent it, cut it with a Dremel, cleaned it up with the sander, and then of course blackened it using pewter black by Jack's. And once you mix it with water, you can see the magic just transforming right in front of your eyes. Make sure it gets good and black, and then you take it out and leave it to dry for a while, and it should hold that black look. Following this, we went on to install the packing piece, which is necessary for this piece to fit. Probably didn't get it 100% correct, because in the diagram it looks like it's attached directly to the arm and the side, and then of course on top of that we have to install a wedge-shaped ledge, and so I actually added a little piece to the side of the arm, so that when I went to install the iron knee, there would be something there for it to join. I used some 5-minute epoxy, and I had to put a temporary brace below it because it kept falling down. All in all, I think I followed the book correctly. So all that is left for us to do is to put in the various ledges, which you'll see us doing here, and then sanding everything down to get it nice and clean. And then we'll see you in the next video, where we put in the collins and the ledges, and we'll see how far we can get installing the various other beams. See you next time.